Welcome to How to Stay Healthy as a baseball player. I'm going to try to keep it as actionable as possible and give you as much information as possible. So, without further ado, who am I? My name is Dr. Edwin Porras. I am a physical therapist, former professional baseball physical therapist. I was with the Minnesota Twins for 2 years. Now I've opened my practice here in Denver, and I've been here for almost 2 years now, seeing professional athletes, college athletes, high school athletes, all the way down to youth athletes. And you'll see here my family. You'll see my wife, my dogs, my animals, and we own 2 rabbits. So I'm pretty sure I'll be the only Spanish-speaking rabbit-owning physical therapist with professional baseball experience you have ever met, or at least virtually met. I just gave you a brief introduction of who I am. Now, here's the stuff that everybody usually cares to see. Some pictures of my time down at the spring training complex when I was a part of the Minnesota Twins. I learned a ton. I couldn't have asked for a better experience. I got offered the 3rd contract and decided I was ready to be done for a lot of different reasons, but it was still the most rewarding times of my life. If you're asking yourself, why should I listen to this guy? I don't know everything. I'm not going to claim to know everything. I'm going to tell you what's worked in my experience. And I try to operate most of the time at ProAthletePT. We try to operate based off of the data and the evidence. But if you need some evidence of have you done this before? Here's some guys from the professional ranks up to the Division I ranks that we've helped and some of the nice things that they've said about us. We got a Twins guy, a guy from the University of Nevada, another Denver local who was at Oregon State, now at Cal Poly. We've got a young kid, Ethan Walksman. Keep him on your radar. He is number 1 pitcher right now in Colorado at the time of this recording. A bit more about what today's goals are. So I want to define what the baseball injury problem is, and then I want to demystify what arm care is to you, because that can get really confusing. Arm care is a very broad umbrella term. I want to define it, and then I want to talk about how to put us out of business. Now, I don't want to totally go out of business, right? But if the rehab department is totally scrapped because we don't have any other baseball player coming in asking us for rehab help, then we've done our job. I want to put our rehab department out of business. And I mean that. The big question is, how can you prevent a baseball injury? And if the answer was simple, if I knew it, there would be no epidemic of Tommy Johns. The MLB wouldn't spend $2 million into injury prevention and sports medicine. That's why it's going to take some time to really peel back the layers. And I want to focus in on how can we prevent an injury in athletes who are 20 years and younger before they get to the big leagues, before they get to the professional ranks. I said I wanted to talk about the problem. Well, what is the problem? If I were to ask you this question, 254 baseball players, 12 to 16 years old, how many of them had an arm injury? What percent had an arm injury between the ages of 12 and 16? 25%. Okay, I'm going to leave that at that. What's next? Percent of TJs are done on teenage baseball players. If you don't know what TJ is, it's just an elbow surgery to fix the ligament inside the elbow that is injured most often in baseball players. That's what TJ means. Now, what percent of the surgeries are done on teenagers? If this doesn't shock you, I'm not sure what will shock you. 57%. 57% of elbow surgeries are done on baseball players who are between the ages of 15 and 19 here in the United States. That is outrageous. That should not be something we become accustomed to. That's not something we should be numb to. That's something that we should take seriously and understand there's a problem here that we need to at least try to fix. Next factor myth. How many people think that TJ makes you throw harder? I'm sure that's something you've heard, something you've seen. Well, it's a myth. Eventually, that velo number drops back down. There is a slight bump, but most sports medicine providers are convinced that's just because of the rest that you had. And then that post-surgery velo, it ends up dropping again. So you don't throw faster just because you had TJ done. So after surgery, what percentage of players return to form? Well, 10 to 20% of players never get back to how good they were before the surgery. It is not a fix-all surgery. It's not a surgery that's easy to come back from. It takes a lot of time, energy, effort, and money, quite frankly, to rehab one person going through this TJ reconstruction. And now that we have a lot more data under our belt, we're starting to see that there's actually a shelf life with these. Don't get me wrong. It's actually amazing that we're able to even do this and get baseball players back to playing baseball at all. But we are starting to learn that there's also a shelf life, like we saw with Shohei Ohtani recently, where these ligaments only have so long after they're repaired after the surgery. So here's the recap. 25% of 12 to 16-year-olds have an arm injury, baseball players. 57% of UCL surgeries, Tommy John surgeries, are done on teenagers in the United States. Velo is not better after TJ, and 10 to 20% of players never get back to where they were after TJ. What do the athletes say? So there's this study, and what this survey did, they took hundreds of athletes. The average age of the athlete was 15 to 16. They're baseball players. They asked them a bunch of questions, and they asked them to categorize those questions into never, rarely, sometimes, often, or always. If you're not understanding what I'm saying, you'll see as soon as I bring some up. Here's the number that actually is pretty scary. 43% of baseball players reported having pain at least sometimes. 11% say that they have pain often. So they asked the question, they asked all these athletes, do you feel that your elbow pain holds you back from being a better player? 33% said yes. So to summarize, 33% of athletes feel held back by their pain. 43% say that they have pain after they throw. And 11% say that they have pain after they throw often. But it doesn't get any better. Because 43% report pain after throwing and 11% say that they have pain often, you would think that stopped them from playing games. And yet 10% say that their arm pain made them stop playing in games. If we know that these kids have pain, and I'll get to this, and maybe I should have led with this, pain is not normal. Discomfort, soreness, sure. Every now and then that's going to happen. But pain, especially for a kid who's 15, 16 years old, that is not normal. That's not something they should be necessarily working through. And yet 90% of athletes that we see in the survey are working through it. Here, I think, is actually the most damning indictment. One of my favorite quotes, who knows who said it at this point, but it's like you spend your whole life gripping a baseball until you realize it's been the other way around the whole time. It's a romanticized game that should be fun. And yet 32% of our athletes who are teenagers, they say that their arm pain causes baseball to be less fun. If we're causing baseball to be less fun, or if we're not helping these kids have fun while they're playing, then I think we're totally missing the boat and we're totally misunderstanding what we started playing baseball for in the first place. I want to switch gears. Let's talk about what are some things that actually cause injuries.